It was supposed to be a simple photo opportunity, just another charity event to make the news. But that day, in the crowded halls of a rundown nursing home, millionaire Ethan Cole would come, face to face with the one person who had loved him before the world ever knew his name. The story began on a gray Friday afternoon. Cameras clicked, assistants whispered, and Ethan's driver opened the door of his sleek black car outside St. Mark's Elderly Care Center. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and old wood polish. A local reporter waved eagerly. "Mr. Cole, a quick comment about your donation." Ethan forced a polite smile. "Just here to help," he said smoothly, adjusting his expensive watch. But behind the smile, his eyes were tired. He wasn't here out of compassion. He was here because his PR team said it would look good. Inside, the nursing home felt cramped and sad. Dim lighting, faded wallpaper. A few nurses moved quietly between rooms, pushing carts that squeaked with every step. The residents, many in wheelchairs, looked up curiously as Ethan passed by with his entourage. One of them, a frail old woman sitting near the window, watched him longer than the rest. Her gray eyes followed his every move. "Let's start the tour," said Jenna, the young volunteer guiding him. "This way, Mr. Cole." Ethan nodded and followed, pretending to listen as she described the facility's financial struggles. But something about that woman by the window tugged at his attention. She was whispering something, eyes fixed on him. "Ethan," he thought he heard her say. He brushed it off and kept walking. 10 minutes later, Jenna stopped at a small recreation room where a few residents were painting. A camera flashed as Ethan shook hands with one of them. He smiled, but his eyes drifted again toward that same woman in the hallway. She was still watching him, lips trembling, tears glinting in her eyes. "Sir," Jenna said softly, "would you like to meet some of our long-term residents? The lady by the window has been here the longest, almost 20 years. Ethan hesitated. "Sure," he said finally. As he approached, the woman tried to stand. Her thin hands trembled. "No, please, sit," he said kindly, a habit of politeness more than empathy. But then she whispered something that froze him. "Ethan, my boy." He blinked, confused. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" Her wrinkled face softened with recognition. "You used to call me Mama Ruth." The room went silent. Even the cameras seemed to stop clicking. Ethan's jaw tightened. The name hit him like a forgotten melody. Mama Ruth. He hadn't heard that in over 30 years. When he was 6, he'd been a scrawny boy in a shelter, abandoned and nameless. It was Mama Ruth, a middle-aged caretaker, who used to sneak him extra food, tell him bedtime stories, and hum lullabies when he cried at night. She was the only warmth he'd known before he was adopted by a wealthy couple who changed everything: his name, his home, his future. He never saw her again. But this couldn't be her. She'd be what? 80 now. He looked closer. The lines on her face were deep, her body frail, but those eyes, those same gentle, gray eyes, still carried the same light. "Ruth," he whispered. Her lip quivered. "You remembered." Ethan's throat went dry. How are you here?" She smiled faintly. "Life has its turns, sweetheart. I stayed at the shelter long after you left. Then, the funding ran out. I had nowhere to go." She glanced around the dim hall. "They brought me here." He could barely breathe. "And no one helped you?" She laughed softly. "Help? I wasn't anyone important." For the first time that day, Ethan didn't care about cameras or appearances. He pulled a chair beside her and took her trembling hand. "You were important to me," he said quietly. The cameras clicked again, but no one dared interrupt. Ruth's voice wavered. "I used to see you in the papers, in those suits, doing big things. I told the nurses, that's my boy. But they just smiled." He said. "I was confused." Ethan swallowed hard, guilt clawing at his chest. He had built empires, donated millions, but never once thought to look back at where he came from. Never once thought of the woman who gave him love when no one else did. Jenna excused herself and ushered the photographers away. It was just the two of them now. Ruth's breathing was slow, her voice weaker. "You turned out just fine, Ethan. That's all I ever wanted." "No," he said, shaking his head. "I didn't. I forgot you." Her hand squeezed his. "No. You lived. That's enough." A tear slid down his cheek. Quiet, unguarded. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Because you never asked," she whispered. "And I didn't want to be a burden." Something broke in him then. Years of distance, success, and pride all crumbled in one moment of truth. He had spent his life proving he was worthy, but the one person who already saw worth in him had been forgotten in a lonely care home. "Ruth," he said softly, "you're coming with me. I'm not leaving you here." She smiled, tears spilling freely now. "Oh, my boy, you don't owe me anything. I owe you everything," he said, his voice steady. "You gave me love when you had nothing. Let me give you peace now." 2 days later, headlines flooded the internet. Not about his donation, but about the reunion. Millionaire finds his long-lost caretaker at charity visit. But Ethan didn't care for the attention. He had moved Ruth into his own home, into a sunlit room with books and flowers. Nurses cared for her, but Ethan was there every morning, bringing her tea and reading aloud from the stories she used to tell him. Weeks passed. Ruth's health improved for a time, her laughter filling the quiet halls. One evening, as the sunset painted the sky orange, she called him over. "Promise me something, Ethan," she whispered. "Anything. Don't just build things. Build people. Help the ones who don't get seen." He nodded, eyes wet. "I will." Ruth smiled, closed her eyes, and drifted to sleep holding his hand. Months later, the Ruth Home Foundation opened its doors, a new chain of care centers for abandoned children and forgotten elders. At the entrance stood a bronze plaque engraved with words Ethan wrote himself. "Love isn't about blood, it's about who shows up when no one else will." Standing there at the opening ceremony, Ethan looked at Ruth's photograph framed on the wall. "Thank you," he whispered. "You showed up for me." The audience applauded, but Ethan wasn't looking at them. His eyes were on that picture of the woman who taught him that real wealth has nothing to do with money, because sometimes the richest people are the ones who give their hearts away and never ask for anything in return.